Ben Simmons came into the NBA as the first overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft. He should have been the final piece of the Philadelphia 76ers process, their reward after years of tanking. But now, fast forward 7 years, you could call him the biggest flop in NBA history. Simmons is a 6'10" point guard with excellent passing, elite defense, and top-tier athleticism. He should be a walking mismatch on offense and a 1-5 lockdown defender on defense. But today, he's a below-average role player on an average Brooklyn Nets team and probably has the worst contract in the league. It all started well. For Simmons in college, he was the first player since 1986 to average over 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists. He was one of the most fluid and co-coordinated athletes you'd find in any sport, not just basketball. Long strides, great body control, and an unpredictable change of pace. He did things in transition we hadn't seen from somebody his size. Because of his incredible ball handling skills, and ability to find teammates with bullet passes, his scouting report drew comparisons to the king. Nobody was surprised when he went first in the draft. After sitting out his first season in the league through injury, he helped Philly win 52 games and reach the playoffs for the first time in 6 years, winning NBA Rookie of the Year in 2016 over Donovan Mitchell. We all remember that beef. For a moment, the process looked like it was cooking. 4 years of tanking seemed to have acquired top talent. Former Philly GM Sam Hinkie looked like the guy, especially after the Sixers dominantly won the first round of the playoffs against the Heat. Simmons averaged 18, 10, and 9 in 5 games against Miami and became the first rookie since Magic Johnson to record a triple-double in his first playoff series. However, then things started to go left. We've all heard how bright the lights are in the playoffs, and in round 2, Boston showed Ben and the Sixers just how bright they are, exposing Ben's biggest weaknesses. The Celtics were able to completely shut down his drive and kick game mainly because of quick switching center Al Horford. Boston left him wide open, disrespectfully, daring Ben to shoot and staying close to everybody else, and it absolutely suffocated his game. Ben looked lost, unmotivated, and completely harmless. The Sixers' offense clogged up and they lost the series in 5, a gentleman's sweep. Just a few weeks before Simmons was up, trust the process Philly had a new king, right? Fast forward 2 weeks, and the city of brotherly love was on his back. News outlets and fan forums trashing his game and character, wondering how a point guard could be such a terrible shooter. Some cooler heads defended Ben, saying that he's still at the beginning of his career. He's going to be a star in this game, eventually assuming he works on his mid-range jump shot. After all, there were plenty of Hall of Fame ball handlers who came to the NBA with a broken jump shot, namely Jason Kidd and LeBron. During the offseason, videos emerged of Ben working on his jumper. This would become a trend. However, when the season started, he still didn't have a jumper. In fact, he actively wouldn't take jumpers. But it didn't matter. His passing and defense was so good it really didn't matter. Philly still won games, and the mid-season acquisition of Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris took the Sixers to another level. Simmons became an all-star with 22 triple-doubles and 0 made threes. But in the second round of the playoffs against Toronto, Ben's role changed from dominant ball handler to offensive decoy. The frustrating thing was his motivation and engagement. It was like Ben didn't want to be on the court, and his no-show act didn't go down well with the fans. In Game 7, when Kawhi hit that shot, the first guy everyone blamed was Simmons. His coach defended him, and Simmons promised to work on his shot. During the offseason, we saw more footage of Ben working on his jumper, and in a preseason game in China, Ben made his first career three-pointer. His teammates celebrated like it was a buzzer beater. During the 2020 season, Simmons only made 2 three-point shots, but his all-around game took a leap, especially defensively. He led the league in steals, made the All-NBA third team, and first team All-Defense, but he got injured before the playoffs, and the Sixers were swept in the first round. In 2021, Simmons made his third All-Star team and finished second in voting for Defensive Player of the Year. But when those bright lights came round, Ben went from bad to worse. Not only did his shot not improve, but it reached an all-time low. He struggled at the free throw line and became the worst free throw shooter in playoff history, worse than Wilt and Shaq. Let's not forget, he's a guard. Ben's confidence disappeared. Because he was scared to attempt free throws, he stopped driving to the basket, which made him useless on offense. In the second round against the Hawks, Simmons was clearly scared to shoot, and in Game 7, he had the low light of his career. With 3 minutes to go and the Sixers down by 2 points, Ben had a wide open dunk, but passed the ball because he was afraid to get fouled and shoot free throws. This completely shifted the momentum of the game, and the Sixers lost again, with Simmons scoring only 19 points over the final 3 games. Of course, just like in previous years, the general public threw him under the bus. But unlike before, his teammate Joel Embiid and his coach Doc Rivers didn't defend him. Simmons was crucified for his lack of shooting, more specifically for a lack of any kind of progress. The signs were clear. We all saw it coming, no doubt. It was just a matter of time before our boy was going to bounce and get traded. Despite still having 4 years left on his contract, my man Ben had the audacity to ask for a trade in August 2021. But damn, his trade value had plummeted to the ground, making it hella tough for the Sixers to make a deal. And that's when all the real drama kicked off. Ben straight up threatened to skip training camp, trying to force his trade demands. But the Sixers wanted him to play and boost his trade value. Simmons, as he had indicated, straight up ghosted training camp, which even had Embiid calling it disrespectful. Ben's absence had the Sixers holding back the first quarter of his massive $32 million annual salary. That's some cold hard reality right there, and it got Simmons thinking twice. But then, on October 11th, Simmons decided to show up to the team, but his spirit was somewhere else. He was just there physically, but mentally, he was floating away. And just a few days after he started training, Doc Rivers threw him out of practice. Why? Because Ben wasn't putting in the work, neglecting certain drills, and his whole attitude and body language was straight garbage. The team had no choice but to suspend Ben for the season opener, and all the missed training and team meeting fines added up to a crazy $1.4 million. Following that, Simmons made a controversial move, citing mental health concerns as the reason behind his actions. However, skepticism lingered among both fans and analysts regarding the legitimacy of his claims. The Sixers, too, weren't convinced, as they continued to impose fines on Simmons for his repeated absence from team obligations. By the conclusion of 2021, Simmons had amassed an unprecedented amount of fines, surpassing the $10 million threshold within a mere 6-month span. The once promising relationship between Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers rapidly deteriorated from amicable to acrimonious, ultimately reaching a state of extreme animosity. Previously hailed as a formidable contender for the Defensive Player of the Year accolade, Simmons' performance in the playoffs turned disastrous, leaving the team and its supporters extremely disappointed. To make things worse, Simmons demonstrated a palpable disinterest in wearing the team jersey. Finally, on February 10th of 2022, Simmons was traded to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for James Harden. Most NBA analysts viewed the trade as a win-win, and there was still plenty of hope for Simmons with Philadelphia. The Embiid and Simmons pairing offered very little spacing, as they both like to operate in the same space on the floor and have the ball in their hands. With the Nets, it should have been much easier for Ben to play the role of the small ball center and essentially be what Draymond Green is for the Warriors. Because the Nets had KD and Kyrie, they didn't require Ben to score. He was brought in to play defense, rebound, and set up shots for teammates. He had all the tools to succeed in that speed finishing at the rim play, making it from the high post, and a killer transition game. Soon after his trade, Simmons was diagnosed with a herniated disc in his back, ruling him out for the remainder of the regular season. On the 21st of April, Simmons reportedly planned to make his season debut in Game 4 against the Celtics. He sent the message to his teammates that he would play, and the NBA world looked forward to his Nets debut in a must-win game. But just before the opening tip, Ben changed his mind and said that he wouldn't play after all, which caused another round of confusion and scrutiny. The Nets lost the game and the series, and Simmons underwent back surgery. Then finally, at the beginning of the 22-23 regular season, Ben returned to action, but it didn't look good. He looked like a shell of his former self. Simmons looked uncomfortable just looking at the basket, yet alone trying to make a shot. Once again, he wasn't driving to the rim because it exposed his struggles from the line, where he just shot 44%. By far the worst in the league. His passive play was detrimental to the team, and what was worst of all, his defense wasn't much better either. Due to injuries, Simmons lost some of his mobility and athleticism, and when he was on the court, the Nets were a disaster. In February, Simmons had his knee drained, which removed him from the lineup. Then on the 24th of March, the Nets announced that Simmons had been diagnosed with a nerve impingement in his back and would be out for the rest of the season. Ben still had 2 years left on his deal worth $78 million, which is without any doubt the worst contract in the NBA. So far, Simmons played just 55% of games. He's made just 5 career three-pointers, and he's showing more and more injury concerns. He still shoots with the wrong hand because he's a natural righty, but his dad raised him to shoot with his left. If you look at his hook shots, floaters, layups, and dunks, he has a far better touch with his right hand. There's an undeniable potential in his shot, but the worst thing is that he never progressed as a shooter. He's gotten worse, which trashed his confidence. But the reality is that Simmons doesn't ever need to be anything more than an average shooter, just like Draymond or Giannis. If he's given even a 30% shooter from 3 and a 70% at the free throw line, he would be able to aggressively attack closeouts and drive to the basket without the fear of being fouled and sent to the line. Giannis is arguably the best player in the NBA, and he's not a good shooter. Ben Simmons is physically the closest thing to Giannis there is in terms of running the floor and attacking in transition, and he's still only 27 years old. If he gets his head together and his body right, he can still be an effective NBA player, maybe even an all-star. But that's the thing. Ben seems more interested in being a celebrity and enjoying the lifestyle. It doesn't look like he has the motivation to come back. He doesn't have that dog in him. The harsh reality is he's more likely to play in China or retire after this contract than to return to all-star form. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to like it and subscribe to our channel for more.